Bedtime.
This is the news at bedtime with me, John Tweedledum.
And me, Jim Tweedledee. Stories this bedtime. The inquest into the death of Cock Robin. The coroner's report highlights fundamental errors in the investigation.
My client, the Sparrow, was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He has now retracted his confession and says that the bow and arrow were planted on him by the police, who had only arrested him because he was brown, with a grey speckled breast.
More of that later.
Also coming up, we ask, will Prince Charming ever marry Cinderella?
But first, news coming in of a disturbing medical mystery involving an old woman who swallowed a fly. We're going over now to Mary, our contrary correspondent, who is in the hospital.
No, I'm not.
So, where are you, Mary?
I'm outside the hospital, Jim, and with me is Dr. Foster, who is treating the old woman. Can you tell us, Doctor, why she swallowed the fly?
I don't know why she swallowed the fly.
And will she die?
Perhaps, but we are doing everything we can to remove the fly. We've given her a spider to be taken orally, which should do the job.
Are there any side effects?
The spider may wriggle and jiggle and tickle inside her.
And if the spider fails to catch the fly?
In that unlikely event, then we will administer a routine bird, like the one I have here, which we will insert into her throat in order to catch the spider and thus remove the fly.
A bird? How absurd.
Not at all. This is a standard procedure in cases of insect ingestion. There's nothing to worry about.
Thank you, Doctor. Back to you in the studio, Jim.
Mary, our contrary correspondent, will be keeping us updated on that story as it happens.
No, I won't.
She really is so contrary.
And the time just coming up to 102, Tickery 7, Hallybow, Crackybow, 10 and 11. Now, we all remember the outpouring of grief at the death of one of Nurseryland's favourite redbreasts. It was said that all the buds of the air fell a-sighing and a-sobbing when they heard the bell toll for poor Cock Robin.
Today's coroner's report into Cock Robin's killing has highlighted serious errors in the original police investigation. With me now is Gregory Griggs, the lawyer representing the accused Sparrow, who was jailed for life for murder at the Bird Assizes. Gregory Griggs, you have, I believe, 47 different wigs.
That's because I'm a barrister. But can we stick to the shocking miscarriage of justice that has been perpetrated on my client, the Sparrow?
These wigs, where exactly do you wear them?
Well, I wear them up and I wear them down to please the people of the town, but really this is all irrelevant.
Do you wear them east and wear them west?
Look, I came here to...
And you can't tell which you love best?
I refuse to answer any more questions relating to my wigs.
Fair enough.
I'm here to launch a campaign to free my client, the Birdcage 1, who has been wrongly incarcerated for a crime he did not commit.
So you say, but there was a witness.
It was a fly.
A fly may be, but he saw Cock Robin die with his little eye.
If we rely for justice on the evidence of an arthropod that is notorious for having poor vision, then we are clearly living in a nursery world that is as mad as a hatter.
Come off it. We all know that a fly's eye has 4,000 lenses. That's got to be good, hasn't it?
No. Flies can barely see more than 24 inches, and ballistics suggest that the fly was more than 3 feet away from Cock Robin at the time of death.
And what does the fly say to that?
Well, that's the problem. When I tried to trace him, the fly conveniently disappeared, vanished. And until I track down the fly and question him about this evidence, the Sparrow is going to remain in jail.
So you don't know where the fly has gone to?
No, it's a complete mystery.
Thank you, Gregory Griggs. And all his wigs.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Fascinating story, John. The fly's buzzed off and the Sparrow's doing bird.
Don't get any better, do they?
Perhaps they should send in a SWAT team.
Oh, yeah.
Now, back to that heartbreaking medical story about the old lady who swallowed a fly. That's a coincidence. Mary, our contrary correspondent, is outside the operating theatre.
No, I'm not, John. I'm inside the operating theatre and it's looking messy. Listeners may find the following distressing, so if you are of a sensitive nature, then look away from your radios. Now, Dr. Foster, has the bird procedure worked?
There have, unfortunately, been some complications, possibly due to the advanced age of the patient. It is now necessary for us to implant this emergency cat.
A cat? Imagine that.
The catoscopy is a pioneering procedure, but our success rates are very, very good.
Quick, we're losing the old woman.
Right, get me a dog.
As soon as I have any news, John, I'll bring you an update on the progress of the dog introduced into the old woman to catch the cat, to catch the bird, to catch the spider which wriggled and jiggled and tickled inside her to catch the fly.
And we still don't know why she swallowed the fly.
No, John.
Will she die?
Perhaps.
Thanks, Mary. Jim.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, John. Now, here's Robinson Crusoe with news of this week's Desert Island Discs.
My castaway this week is one of the legendary female impersonators of our time. He is, of course, the Wolf. Mr. Wolf, you're famous for dressing up as a woman. When did you realise that you were not like other wolves?
Quite early, Robinson, I realised I was less interested in huffing and puffing and blowing down houses than putting on frocks and high heels and blowing sailors. Kisses, that is. Am I allowed to say that? Slap on paw for Wolfie.
What was your favourite role?
Well, I think it has to be Red Riding Hood's granny. The bonnet, the dressing gown, the shawl, the all-over waxing. Ouch. All too divine. And though I say it myself, I wowed them in the forest.
Though you did have your critics.
There was one particularly beastly woodsman who tried to chop me up with an axe. But you can't let them get to you, Robinson. It's extraordinary how prejudiced people are against the lupine transvestite community. We're not harming anyone.
Apart from the people you eat.
Now, you're just being naughty, Robbie.
And your next record?
Well, it's lovely Judy Garland.
Again?
Singing Over the Rainbow.
Again?
Somewhere over the rainbow. Oh, Judy.
So join me, Robinson Crusoe, for Desert Island Discs tomorrow on Radio 40 Winks at 11:30.
Desert Island Discs there. Have you been on yet, Jim? Because I have. That's a no, then.
No. This week has seen, yet again, no announcement of the long-anticipated royal engagement between Prince Charming and Cinderella. I'm joined now by our royal correspondent, Pussycat. Now, Pussycat, where have you been?
Well, Jim, I've been up to London to look at the Queen.
It's now 3 years since the ball where Charming and Cinderella first met. Are we to assume the fairy tale wedding is never going to happen?
I think what you have to remember, Jim, is that Cinders is a very modern young woman. She has a job working in the scullery for her stepmother, and he is very busy with his being charming commitments. So, like many busy young couples, they just haven't found the time.
And presumably there is a lot of pressure on the prince.
Yes, that's right. He doesn't want to rush into anything like his father did and end up having to divorce the beautiful princess and marry an ugly sister.
Can I bring in society hostess Dame Trot? You are not so sure about their suitability.
She's a lovely girl, don't get me wrong, but they come from very different backgrounds. Her fairy godmother was essentially an air hostess, flying around granting wishes. I mean, cabin crew, doors to manual.
Oh, this is just snobbery.
Let me finish, Mr. Tweedledee. What I'm saying is that the prince comes from a long line of charmings, whereas Cinderella, some of her friends are mice.
So who would you like to see the prince marry?
A nice princess from a nice royal family. Someone like the princess with the pea. Now, there's a lovely girl who can feel a pea through 20 mattresses. She's got real nobility, whereas all Cinders has got is a pumpkin and a mop.
Thank you, Dame Trot.
Just what we need. Another pea-brained royal.
Oh, there goes your knighthood, John. Disappearing very fast in a golden carriage.
There are other forms of recognition, Jim, like appearing on Desert Island Discs. Quite an honour. Now, thought for the day with Peter Rabbi.
Hello, John. Hello, Jim. 1 or 2 listeners have written in to say my thoughts for the day are rather depressing, and always about furry bunnies dying in unpleasant ways. So today I'm going to tell you a different story, a story about a hedgehog. Many years ago, my old mother, Mrs. Rabbi, had a friend who did all the ironing for all the animals around Mr. McGregor's farm. The birds, the cats, the rabbits. Mrs. Tiggywinkle ironed for all of them. Then one day, do you know what happened? Mrs. Tiggywinkle was on her way back to her little home with her neat little pile of ironing when she was run over by a big 4x4 which squashed her flat, just like her ironing. And I thought, isn't that life all over? Well, Mrs. Tiggywinkle's life was certainly all over.
Uplifting stuff there, as ever, from Peter Rabbi. News just coming in from the Coast Guard of an accident involving a young fisher named Fisher. I have the Coast Guard on the phone. Captain, what can you tell me?
The young fisher named Fisher was fishing for fish in a fisher.
That's a crack in the rock.
As I said, he was fishing for fish in a fisher when the fish with a grin pulled the fisherman in, and now we're fishing the fisher for Fisher.
So, let me get this straight. The fisher is being fished out of the fisher.
That's right, John.
But what of fisher fishing for fish?
I think that's over for now, John.
I think young Fisher the fisher is lucky that you can be fished to fish him out of that fisher.
For sure.
Thank you, Captain.
What you might call a fishy tale.
That really is terrible, Jim.
Ow! Give me that rattle!
Make me! Give that to me!
I had it first!
Give me that! Take your hands off of that rattle! You'll get it on the turn-up again!
I'm Fee-Fi Glover, and on this week's Fee-Fi Phone-In, we're looking at the really big issues, the issues affecting giants. I've got Thunderdale calling on line 1.
Hello, Fee. Love the programme.
What's your point, Thunderdale?
Kids today, they've got no respect for giants. I had one break into my castle and steal my magic harp. Bloody liberty.
So what do you propose be done about it?
What I do as soon as I smelt his blood is to grind his bones to make me bread.
That's your opinion, Thunderdale. I've got the big friendly giant on line 3. What's your view, BFG?
Well, I'm sorry, Fee, but Thunderdale's knee-jerk reaction is just the sort of thing that's going to give giants a bad name. For heaven's sake, we're not ogres.
Well, some of you are. I've got Grumbleshanks on line 6.
It's trousers. That's the main problem. No one stocks trousers for the lofty lad.
Exactly how tall are you?
About 37 feet. Not that big.
So, more giant controversy with me, Fee-Fi Glover, on the Fee-Fi Phone-In on Wednesday at 11:30.
Our apologies to listeners who may have experienced some interference with the broadcast there due to some technical difficulties with the rattle.
Inserted up a certain person's posterior. Use that as an anecdote on Desert Island Discs.
Over now to Mary, our contrary correspondent, who is following the desperate attempts to save the old woman who swallowed a fly. Mary, I gather there is some good news?
No, Jim, the news here is not good at all. Dr. Foster, is there any hope left for the old woman?
We have done everything we can for her. Sadly, the dog operation did not work. It was necessary to employ a goat to try and remove the dog lodged inside her throat.
What's happening now?
The goat was a high-risk strategy which required a cow as an antidote.
Are you sure you know what you're doing, Doctor? Surely this is way beyond the bounds of conventional medicine?
It is pioneering surgery, and obviously, to the layman, it looks a bit strange. But if this works, it could open a whole new field of groundbreaking operations involving farm animals. Excuse me. Swab. Scalpel. Clamp. Horse.
So the old woman has swallowed a horse. Is she dead?
Of course.
Just time to look at tomorrow's papers. The Nursery Times leads with state visits in Nurseryland. Yankee Doodle comes to town and some nice pictures there of President Doodle riding on a pony. The Daily Fairygraph goes for Wolf claims 3 little pigs gave him swine flu. The Daily Mirror on the Wall reports Bo Peep issues tearful appeal for lost sheep. And the Twinkle Twinkle Daily Star has, unsurprisingly, more naked pictures of Lady Godiva.
News just in. Little Bo Peep is now being questioned by the authorities in connection with the disappearance of her sheep. DNA tests revealed traces of mint sauce on her clothing. This is me, Jim Tweedledee. Ow!
And me, John Tweedledum. Ow! Wishing everyone good night and live happily ever after, except Jim.
Give me that rattle back.
Give it back.
You're totally incapable of handling a rattle properly. I hate you as well.
Leave me alone.
You've made my life a living hell.
The news at bedtime was written by Ian Hislop and Nick Newman, and it starred Jack Dee, Peter Capaldi, Lewis MacLeod, Lucy Montgomery, Vicky Pepperdine and Daniel Tetzel, Alex McQueen and Fee Glover. So everyone you've ever loved, really. And the producer was Simon Nichols, again. Now, if you were listening on Tuesday, you'll know that I was chatting with musical comedy duo Flo and Joan. And you're in luck, guys, because we've got more of that. Welcome back to the Comedy Club on Radio 4 Extra with me, Sarah Campbell. Now, I'm joined by incredible musical comedy duo. They're real sisters, but their name is fake. I will warn you about that. They're slippery characters, as we've learned. Yeah. Welcome back to the Comedy Club, Flo and Jo.